what are we cooking right here?
Well, we have chili, we have green beans, we have salad, we have Tito's, we have honey Jack Daniels, we got hamburgers and hot dogs.
Also on the menu, a feast of Falcons.
They had their moments, we had our moments.
We come to a game with a dog mentality. Wherever it takes, we're going to do it.
The Commanders conquer again and have won 6 of 7.
Just coming together, camaraderies, it's all working together, man. Offense, defense, special teams, guys are doing their job.
In the playoff hunt, for sure. And with the Giants coming up next.
We just got to keep going, man. Every week we go in, since week 1, honestly, just going 1-0 is really the key.
On Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man is back, y'all. We're back. Call your mama, call your daddy. We're back and we're back. We're back. Tony McGee, back, y'all. We're back. Tony McGee. Come on. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee.
They predicted rain all day in Washington, but one thing we know, it was sunshine for the hot Commanders. 6 out of 7. You believe it.
What's up?
Welcome to Tony McGee, but this is Tony McGee's GEICO National Reporters Show. And when we have a show like this after a big game that they had on Sunday, Donna Hopkins went out and went all over the country looking for the best reporters. Donna, who did you bring into the show?
Hey, Tony, we have to have the best to talk about what's going on around the NFL. And Josina Anderson, we know her, Tony, from way back then, but now she's with CBS, the NFL Insider, CBS Sports HQ. It's good to have Josina back on the show again, Tony. And we've got Mike Jones from The Athletic. Also good to have him back on the show this year. And we told you, Mike, we were bringing you back. And then Ty Miller from Championship Chase, Power News Radio Network. We've got a powerful group here today to talk about what's going on around the NFL. But I got to holler out back to Josina because I'm so happy to have another female on this show today with me.
Hey, well, you had all female last week. Don't even bring that up in here. I was getting butchered by y'all last week.
Josina is the national, Tony. We want the big hitters.
I appreciate it's good.
I just want to say one thing. Why did you leave G-Man out? The man
and
is
you
making
know what,
the Ravens.
Tony, you didn't let me finish up. I had to give the due just to the other national reporters, but as Gary says, he is the ratings. So he's back on with us this week after being off last week because of all the ladies being on. So,
was that when he was in the Bahamas? That's what he was doing. He didn't make the show. Oh, okay. I just wanted to know.
I was in your driveway, Tony, cleaning your car like I always do.
Oh, listen, I was carrying Donna's bag at the game. Don't worry, I had to work too. So, we always start the show off with what's up. And you know what's up? We're looking at this Washington Commanders, and we're looking at what they've done. And we look up, and they've won 6 out of 7 games. They've won them in different ways. But if you start looking at it, this team is really in the running right now, Donna.
Yeah, Tony, the Washington football team has won 6 out of the last 7 games. And looking back, starting 1-4, nobody thought that this team would be in this position right now. Ron Rivera had his 100th game. And when you think about what he did in Carolina at this stage of the first 3 years of his career in Carolina, and now with the Washington Commanders, it's kind of like similar as far as what's happening right now. But they're winning, Tony, almost like the Giants. The Giants was winning games in the beginning of the season that they weren't supposed to win, but they were finding a way to win. And this Washington Commanders team is finding a way to win these games.
And that's what's important. And Josina, you was on the show a long time ago, and you watched that team and the teams they were playing then, they were well balanced and everything. But this team seems to win a different way each and every week.
Well, I just think the whole situation is fascinating when you think about how they ended back up with Taylor Heineke, especially after he was the quarterback that had them, or at least was leading them in the postseason last year. But, when you kind of look at the inside on the quarterback position relative to the Commanders and, ending up on Carson Wentz was obviously not their first choice, and different people that they tried to reach out to. Because when you think about all of the intel that's out there on Carson from a football standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, really going through something that is like the hardest thing probably in sports, and very unforeseen in terms of not only having that injury in Philadelphia, but also having your backup win the Super Bowl. I've been talking about it since he was in Philadelphia. Obviously had a lot of Philadelphia fans, killing me for years, blowing up my mentions, just for a lot of those things to prove out to be the case. And, because it's just it's so hard to get over. And it's understandable as a mid-20-year-old, trying to deal with that psychologically. And for however hard it was for Philadelphia fans to deal with, it did carry over to Indy. And, some people are like, oh, how did Ron Rivera and the Commanders end up with him? And it's really because he wasn't their first choice. But, kudos really to Ron Rivera for having that conversation with Carson Wentz and really sitting down with him over the last week or two and letting him know that regardless of, the healing recovery time on his injury, that he was going to stick with Heineke, and not only for it to work out for the team, but for Heineke to also prove that, I don't have to have the biggest pedigree. I don't have to have the biggest resume, but still, the proof is in my heart. The proof is in how the intensity that I have on the field. And I like to see people like that win, because it's good for hard workers and blue collar people to, see that work.
You know what, G, and if you look at it, everyone's speaking of how the defense has played everything, but the offense played well enough to win. But the one thing that I did see with the offense that it was really enlightening was Mr. Robinson. He ran for over 100 yards. He's made a difference in this offense since he's come back. And he's one of the major reasons, I think, that they're winning.
Well, it's good that we have a running back that we finally hit that 100-yard mark, because that's the true test of a running back. Getting, the 100 yards, once you start to do that consistently over the part of the season. But I tell you what, he ran through some people on Sunday. Like, I saw him score that first time. He ran through 3 people. He was not going to not be denied getting into that end zone. And right now, though, honestly, the defense is carrying us 100%.
Say it again, young man. Say it again.
The reason why we are on this streak, I mean, it's unbelievable how well they're playing right now. They're keeping.
Donna, did you hear what G-Man just said?
Hey, Tommy, I can't disagree with him, because the defense is carrying this team for the last 5 or 6 or 7 games. So I'm agreeing with you. Have no look. I'm not arguing that point, Tony.
Mike, what is the biggest improvement you've seen in this team? They started off at 1-4. If they've won 6 out of 7, look like every position, every facet of the team has improved some way.
No, I totally agree with you, Tony, that there has been improvement all across the board. But 2 really important areas are in the trenches. That defensive front was really underperforming to start the season. Remember, they had some turnover on the coaching staff with Jack Del Rio, and Rivera firing their defensive line coach. And it seemed like things just were really out of sync. Those guys, a lot of top high-end draft picks, were not performing up to standards. And now we're really seeing them, and they still haven't even gotten Chase Young back. But we're seeing them get after quarterbacks. We're seeing them command double and triple teams. We're seeing them stuff runs, getting key stops on key money downs. And then you look at the offensive line, which really was kind of a patchwork quilt, so to speak. And that has really started to come together. And because we have these guys really doing what they need to do in the trenches, you see that the defense is playing better on the back end because the pressure is being applied up front. You see the offense, they're really being able to run the football because those guys are really able to pin back their ears and go after the defense. So, we look and we see the running backs, we see the wide receivers, we talk about quarterbacks, but man, in the trenches is really a lot of times where games are won and lost, and we see the real improvement on both of those units. And I think that's no coincidence that Washington has done better since both of those units have improved.
And Ty, they came a long way to get where they are right now. And you're watching from afar, because I know you have to watch Pittsburgh, and you're probably throwing up every day. Oh, I'm sorry about that. But at the same time, what big improvement have you seen in Pittsburgh about this team?
Well, Tony, it's very simple for me. When I look at the Washington Commanders, they're doing some things I've seen for the past several years on the college level, and that's what they're doing. They're doing it the Alabama way.
Oh, you need to put that down.
They have Rod Payne.
Herschel, we don't want no props up on here.
They have Rod Payne. They have Jonathan Allen, and now they have that bull at the running back, which he's been doing for the past 4 years at Alabama. Brian Robinson is nothing new to what he's been doing. People are just seeing what this guy can do. You've heard about Najee Harris. You've heard about Derrick Henry. But Brian Robinson was solid for 4 straight years at Alabama. He came off the bench, and when he got his time to start, he showed out. So what they're doing right now is playing good old-fashioned SEC pro-type football. Strong defense, strong running game, a game manager at quarterback, and that's why they're winning.
And that's a good word you said, game manager, and that's what he's been doing. And Donna, as you take a look at down, where is this transcending towards getting into the playoffs? Right now, they're a game behind the Giants, which we'll talk about that in the next segment. How it's these next 3 weeks is very important for them. But what do you see from what we saw when they were 1-4?
Yeah, Tony, but I'll be curious to hear from Josina and Mike Jones and Ty. What is the talk around the NFL about the Washington Commanders? Are they the team to beat in the NFC East, even though they're not leading the pack? Are people taking this team serious? I kind of want to hear from those on the national level. What's the talk about the Washington Commanders?
Go ahead, Mike.
I think right now people are taking note of what they're doing, but I haven't heard anybody say that they are favorites. I still think that the Eagles are definitely the team that's leading the pack. People view them as potential Super Bowl contenders. The Cowboys are another team that they have really started to hit their stride, also talked about as potential Super Bowl contenders. Now, what Washington is doing, this is going to be a big week for them facing the Giants. They have a chance to leapfrog them. That will really be a real truth teller, I think, a measuring stick. But people definitely are impressed by the way that they are winning these games, despite not having, a high pedigree quarterback, the way they're able to run the football, the way they're playing on defense. So again, maybe cautiously optimistic, but the favorites are still the Eagles and the Cowboys, from what I hear.
But Josina, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tony.
No, I wanted to ask you anyway, as you look at it, and it really what Mike is saying is people see this, but they're not believing it yet. And I don't know if the fans even believing it yet. But one thing we do look at is they've improved in every facet. And that's one thing that they didn't have in the beginning. But as you look around the league, it's a lot of teams that are going down that were really doing well in the beginning.
Well, I mean, I think Donna pointed out the play of the defensive line that I think has obviously been very strong, particularly in the absence of Chase Young. For a lot of those defensive stats to be the same in terms of pressure rate and all those other things relative to the time that, Chase Young has been out with the ACL up through now and still coming back. I think that's a very strong testament to the other, players on the line and the defense being able to still hold it down, albeit, under Jack Del Rio. And then I think some of those leadership qualities that they were bringing in Ron Rivera for, as far as what was known for in his previous tenure with the Carolina Panthers, despite all of the hurdles and the bumps with all the external adversity that the team keeps dealing with every week. I feel like my phone is blowing up with a different, adverse headline that the team is dealing with. I feel like, that leadership that Ron Rivera is known for is finally kind of starting to pay dividends in terms of his judgment and reading the team and his ability to bring the team together, which is his genuine nature. And even some of the things that he's dealing with off the field with the loss of his mom and what have you, and that creating or elevating his relatability to guys, particularly through the adverse times that they're having as a team. So I think that that's really, just another strong point for the team. One of the things that I did want to say about, Chase, as Mike was also bringing up how they were performing without him, is that, I know that he was added to the injury report late with the illness. But at some point too, and Chase is not the only one dealing with this as far as knee injuries and the psychological and the mental factors that you have to do just to feel secure in the need to come back, but at some point, an athlete does have to get back on the field. You have to get over, the psychological factors, whatever degree they are for that individually, and get back on the team. Because my understanding is that they're not asking him to be a hero. He doesn't have to have a whole bunch of snaps, right away. It's kind of like the way the Bills deployed Tre'Davious White last week, just giving him 15 snaps. So, but it will be interesting to see, given that the Commanders are playing the Giants at MetLife and all of the talk about the turf, and you see OBJ and those guys, going on and on and on about getting rid of turf, if they'll still make Chase wait one more week relative to the surface that, that they're coming back on this week.
So when we come back, we'll be talking about now. We always talk about what's up in the first one. What we're talking about now is what is going to happen next. You're talking about Chase. A lot of people saying do not bring him back. But what we will not want to know is we're talking about what they have done, but we want to know what they're going to do. We'll be back in a moment.
It was raining pretty good, but we wanted to come out there and set the tone and run the ball, and that's what we did. And we played downhill, and we played our game, and came out with the W. So it was a good team win.
No, just continue to attack people. I think that's one of the things that we've been doing. Offensive line has been doing a really good job getting in combination blocks and pushing guys vertical, and that's what we've been doing really good.
We're excited. We're really excited what we got going on, but we're also, I think, hyper focused on what we want to accomplish too. Just taking it one game at a time, and treat every game almost like a playoff game, because we are in that hunt and we want to make it in, and so kind of that playoff 1-0 mentality.
We're winning together, and I think that's the most important thing. Every single phase of the game, offense, defense, special teams, we all buying in, we all believe in each other, and we're doing it together.
It was Payne who just made a good play, tipped the ball, and we just saw the ball in the air. I remember seeing Cordell Patterson and Defoe, and I was just hoping Defoe didn't hit me and knock the ball out, but I was just thinking just getting my hands under the ball, getting my elbows tight, and just trying to make a play on the ball.
I just wanted to, if they was passing, I wanted to be able to rush with extension. So if he scrambled, I could get off and make a play. Or if it was like a quick pass, I could get my hands up. And it ended up being a quick pass, so I just got my hands up and got it in the lane and batted up to one of the guys.
I went up to Payne after the play, and he said, "I eat, you eat." And like I said, it always goes hand in hand, man. When them guys are hunting, we're able to make plays on the ball, and when we're able to play good coverage, they're able to get sacks. And that's things that helps us on defense, getting off on third downs and things like that.
Special formula. We just trying to go out there and play ball, just play fast. Everybody just doing their job, and that's all that really matters. Or it's just everybody buying in, trusting the standard, trusting our techniques at the end of the day, and not trying to do anything that we aren't capable of at the end of the day. So, like I said before, we just really being ourselves. That's the temperature of the locker room right now, and it's going to keep rolling that way.
I want to show you the difference in the players in my day and his day. This is one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. And I tell you what, he's a big one too.
You ain't small yourself now.
Now when we start talking about this on this show, we have to talk about one thing. As I said before we went to the break, we're talking about what they did. We want to know, Donna, what are they going to do? What do they need to do in these next 3 weeks? What's important?
Hey, you know what, Tony? This is kind of like crazy the way this is set up, because they play the Giants. They've got a bye week. Then they play the Giants again. So this is a pivotal time for both teams, even the Giants, because the Giants set at 7-4, Washington sets at 7-5. So this is like a key stretch for both of these teams, and who comes out as the winner is going to be the team that pushes forward.
Well, you know what I said last week, and the old saying is the empty wagon rattled the loudest, and we heard Ty talking about Dallas and talking about it was a joke to think that we would win it. Let's talk about that, Ty. You think Dallas they barely winning now. If a team comes up and run at them, and I'm bringing Dallas in because Ty is a Dallas fan, I want all you fans to know that, but he's a good man. You tell me, do you think they can pull it off next couple weeks? And how do you think they would do with a running game against your team?
Well, I think Washington would do real well against Dallas if they can get some stops on defense because they have to outscore the Cowboys to win. But you also pose the question, are they the team to beat in the NFC East? Washington. Well, let's see who they've beaten. Jacksonville, Chicago, Green Bay, Indianapolis.
Does that matter, Ty? Does that matter? Does that matter, Ty? A win is a win.
It does matter, and it does matter who they have coming up. They have the Giants twice. They have San Francisco. They have Cleveland, and they have Dallas again. So, it looks good in November, but championships are won in December, and we'll see what happens when that calendar turns this week.
Hey, Mike and Josina, do you all still really believe that Dallas is the team? Looking at them across the board, looking at Dak, the way he has played, their running game versus Philadelphia being the stronger team, I think still, or has Philadelphia had some hiccups lately because they're barely winning games too. But who really is the team to watch in the NFC East? Todd thinks it's the Cowboys. I'm not convinced yet.
Go ahead,
I agree. I think right now it's the Cowboys. It makes sense. I mean, when you look at that win that they had over the Minnesota Vikings, I think I was watching First Take that morning, and Rex Ryan called it the most dominating win of any team by any team in the National Football League this year. I do agree. I think even though they're starting Ezekiel Elliott, giving kind of more leeway to Tony Pollard has been a big boon and boost for that team. He definitely has the freshness of legs and the burst. And I like to see that even when I was watching the game Thanksgiving, how the two of them seem to be kind of communicating and interacting on the sideline. So it didn't seem like there's tension as a result of when Tony Pollard was shining and Ezekiel Elliott also getting his too. So I think that that's good. And obviously CeeDee Lamb, continuing to do his thing. But it's funny because I feel like I saw a similar effect with the Chiefs as I do with the Cowboys too, because with all the talk about, Odell Beckham Jr. being linked to potentially these teams and ending up with one of them at some point, whether it be this year or the new league year, you've seen some of the wide receivers, I feel like, starting to step up their game even more relative to the impetus or the start of that talk, and not saying that they couldn't do it on their own. They don't possess the skill set, but, whether it be MVS with the Chiefs or whether, CeeDee Lamb and everyone doing their one-handed catches, what have you. I think that that's interesting. And then also Dak just talking about that he really feels like they possess the confidence and you can feel the lather on the team that they're starting to, I believe it more. Now they have to show it and still get past their 8 history that they always have and coming up a game short and $1 late or $1 short or whatever it is that I'm trying to say in the postseason. But right now I do feel like they are the team to beat and everyone else has to kind of, come up to their level.
Well, here on Tony McGee football.
I'm sorry, Tony. I hate to rain on y'all's parade, but the Cowboys are not the team to beat.
Thank you.
The Eagles. When you look at, the Cowboys do have a great defense, but still, they've shown some vulnerabilities as well. When you look at what they've got on offense, I think that the Eagles stack up very well against them. When you look at, not only do they have Devontae Smith, they have A.J. Brown, they've got Miles Sanders, they can run the ball, they can pass the ball, they're well-rounded, but Jalen Hurts is playing at an MVP level. Dak Prescott, very talented quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is playing on a different level right now. And I also think when you talk about creativity and play calling and game planning, I think Nick Sirianni is better at this than what Mike McCarthy and what Kellen Moore are. So I've seen the Cowboys tease everybody. And I just, I don't think that they are better than the Eagles. When I talk to people around the league, everybody still says, look, they are one of the most complete teams in all of football. And I believe it. And I think that, look, they had a little hiccup. I think that loss against Washington probably was good for them. And I think that they're going to still want to run away with this division.
Yeah, I know, Don. I know you don't agree with that, but other than the game, it was some more important things going on at the game. And one thing, let's remember after this, we're gonna cut Mike and Ty, and right away. But tell us what else was happening at the game, Donna.
Yeah, Tony, I hate to get off this heated discussion about the NFC East, but something great happened as far as in the Washington's game. Sean Taylor was honored. They did a memorial for him. So we're going to go to see what they had to say, some of his former teammates that played with him.
It is said that life is a gift, and although Sean Taylor's life was cut short, his impact is lasting. 15 years after his tragic death, former teammate speaks about Sean Taylor, the player, but more importantly, the person.
The last time I saw him in person, it was preseason, the year he passed, and all he talked about was Jackie and baby Jackie. All he talked about was becoming a better man, the opportunities he had to change his life. And it saddens me because so many people had a perception about who he was that didn't really know him. And so it makes me sad that they never got that opportunity that I had.
Could you speak about his play on the field? Because he was just getting ready to explode, and he was so talented as a player.
Yeah, he was out-of-worldly talented. Sean could do things that no one else could do. I think that's why he's spoken of so highly still, even though he didn't get a lot of time to do it. He inspired a whole generation of people who never wanted to play that position. There's not a tall safety in the world or a safety in the world that plays now that wasn't inspired by Sean Taylor. Unfortunately, none of those people could do what he did, but they want to, and it made them want to play the position. And there's still people today that watch highlights of Sean Taylor before they take the field because he was that good, because he was that different, he was that special, and it was an honor to ever share the field with him.
When I stand down and look at number 21 on your chest, what do you feel right now about wearing that number?
You know, to me, it's when I look at 21, you know, prime time is 21. But after prime time, it's Sean T. It ain't no matter how you look at it. Prime time, Sean T. Sean T. when it changed the numbers. It's like looking at 23 when you see Jordan, you know. Nobody else could ever outplay Jordan in 23. And I think Sean is that person that challenged prime to make 21. If somebody say 21 or, you know, throw it up, you know who they're talking about. And that's crazy.
Not only is this generation, but there's a lot of generations that follow Sean and want to be a part of what he's done. And this is the goal. Set the goal high so you can reach that goal.
Sean Swings already talked about it. He's different. And he just didn't come in different. He started to grow. And that's what people do. And that's what men do. And I got a chance to see the maturation of the person. So as good as he was as a football player, he was a better person. And that's who I remember. That's who I remember vividly every day when I think about it. When I go back and watch film, I get to relive those times with him. Times I'll never forget, times that I'll hold dearly to the rest of my life.
Now, you know Sean better than anybody, being the dad. What do you want him to be remembered for most?
Supposed to being kind, treating people right, and also playing the way he's supposed to play. Hard, physical, and tough. Letting everybody know I'm here.
Well, it was great hearing from some of the past players that played with Sean Taylor and to hear from his dad and even his daughter. But there's some controversy, and I had to throw this in. Could it have been done better? We're bringing everybody back in to talk about that because, yes, it could have been done better as far as laid out because of the impactful player that Sean Taylor was for this team.
Well, you know what's important to me, it was done. And most important is a lot of people got to learn a lot of things about Sean Taylor they did not know. At the same time, he was the best athlete on the team, had the best hands, and we lost a great one. But I'll let everybody else chime in on what they say.
Tony, I just remember the day that the incident happened, and I was getting up early in the morning, and I was just in shock and disbelief because I didn't think something like that could happen, especially when it happens to an NFL player. And then you fast forward to what happened to Brian Robinson back in August. and you know that no one's safe at any time. So, again, prayers go out to Robinson, but more importantly, prayers go out to the Sean Taylor family. And I think with all the bad that's happened in Washington recently in terms of what's been going on with the Commanders in the news, this is a good thing, and they should be applauded for doing this.
I agree they should be applauded for honoring him. Yes, I understand some of the frustrations from fans and the way that it was done. Kind of, seems like there was some haphazardly way that things came together. But what was most important was I think you saw the look on his daughter's face when she was talking about, how special it was, and you got to hear from some of his teammates. So, yes, we know the way this team is. We know the way that things seem to be thrown together at times, but what really mattered, like you said, was Sean was remembered as he should be.
We're going to take a small break right now, and I tell you what, when you talk about Sean Taylor, you talk about a young man, his life was cut short in the prime of his career. The career is not important. His life is what we miss. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to our GEICO National Reporters Show. We got some great things going on here. We talked about controversy. We talked about games we're going forward with. But one thing I want to talk about this team is when this streak started, if I remember right, Jerry, the receivers was carrying this team. It seems like now, and maybe it is Heineke, but they're not as involved as much.
Well, I mean, it's a combination. The running game got going this past week, and that's huge. Anytime you get a running back that gets over 100 yards, that's a great thing. That's a nice mixture. But no, let's not get it twisted, though. I mean, the receivers are the heart of this team, 100%. I mean, they're the heart of the team.
More comedy. More comedy from Washington.
When your fifth wide receiver can start on any other team, you're deep at that position. And their fifth wide receiver can start on any other team, quite honestly. So it's just a matter of making sure that Heineke is protected and him making better decisions, because he can't be a 50-50 quarterback for the remainder of the season. At some point in time, that's become 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, then 90-10. That's what
when we're talking playoffs, and I want to ask you this, Josina, we're talking about the East, but it's the other teams around the league that worse than needs to surpass to even get into the wild card playing. And as you look at like the Tampa Bays and different teams are falling off. Would it be easier for them if they get this 9 or 10 wins to get into the playoffs?
Well, I mean, obviously, for any team, the easiest road to do it is through the division. But as Mike was mentioning about the Eagles, they right now have their foothold, on that relative to their record. But I like the fact that Heineke's been there before. He's done it before, even though Todd Bowles had a great, game plan for him the last time that he was in the playoffs. I think that with each game that they're just going to gain more confidence that, it can be done. It's just that they encountered so much turmoil at the beginning of the season and everything that they're dealing with externally. But, they're starting to catch a rhythm. And I just think that the back half of this season is going to be really interesting. Some of the teams that were, kind of, floating on a good streak, whether it be, the Seahawks that fell to the Raiders the other day, or as you mentioned, the Bucs being high, winning against the Cardinals in Mexico and then coming back and, falling short, in their return or what have you. So it'll be, very interesting to see, but I still think that it's possible. I mean, look at the Browns. They had a big win the other day. And then, now you mentioned that's one of the teams that the Commanders are facing down the stretch, but it will be a new look Browns because now they'll have Deshaun Watson as he's coming back and facing the Texans in Houston, no less, this week, which is the game that I'm doing this week. So there's still time, to still do it, especially if a team gets on a skid. No one would have predicted that the Raiders were going to fall to the Jaguars yesterday, but so it happened.
And Tony, let me jump in here right quick since we're on this. So when you look at the division, the NFC East division right now, Philadelphia within the division is 2-1, Dallas is 3-1. The Giants is 0-2 and Washington is 1-2. So that's the reason why these next games, and Washington plays 2 divisional games to finish the season. And well, 2 against the Giants and then 1 against the Cowboys, the last game of the season. So when you look at how this is all planned out and rolling out for the Commanders, they're in position with their destiny in their own hands, because if they can get those 2 wins against the Giants, they already lead them in the division race right now. And if they can get that Dallas run, whether they beat the 49ers, whether they beat Cleveland, they would put themselves in better positions with these divisional games coming up.
But you know what, Ty, I know everybody's saying that Dallas is the team and that's your team and everything. But this little Dak thing, where you got another quarterback that they're saying it should be good for a controversy, do you think that will affect your team going down the stretch?
You mean Dallas with a quarterback controversy? Not anymore.
You know what the owner said. He said it'd be
he
good
said it
for
earlier
the
this
league.
season. He said it earlier this season. And actually, I did not say that the Cowboys were the team that beat in the NFC East. I say I root for the Cowboys. I actually think the Eagles.
Oh man, don't be backing off. You know you
Eagles,
don't even back off.
The Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC East until someone figures out a way to stop that run option of Jalen Hurts, because he has so many options on that play. The only team that has figured it out is Washington. And I think they figured that out because there are 2 guys, again, I get back to what I said at the top. Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen played against Jalen Hurts at Alabama for a couple of years. They know his tendencies as a quarterback. And I think that was a key thing in them winning that game. But I still think unless you stop the Eagles in their running attack, they are the team to beat in the NFC East. But I think Washington, their key will be, like Donna said, in the next 2 to 3 weeks when they play New York twice. And it comes down to which quarterback, Taylor Heineke or Daniel Jones, plays better in those games. That will decide which one of those teams has a shot to be in an NFC wildcard.
So your take on it is you feel like whatever comes down. But Mikey, when I'm looking at the game, Dallas teams, they do very well when teams try to run side to side. But when a team run at them, they seem to have a problem.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so, you got to be physical with some of these. And you got to be varied and multiple with your looks. You can't just, get them with one thing. So that's why versatility is good. The balance is good. Same way, Washington, we saw them run right at Philadelphia with their defensive line. And it forced them to go out and get Ndamukong Suh and some help along that. So, okay, now we'll see, how does Dallas respond as teams down the stretch try to get physical with them. It's going to be interesting to see. Washington has got to, though. They've got to find a way to get a little more consistency out of Taylor Heineke. He still throws up some of those, balls, some interceptions that can be crippling at times. They've been able to overcome them thanks to their defense and things like that. But eventually, when you come in against a good team, that'll come back to bite you. So that consistency is something that we need to see out of him.
Can I say this? Okay.
Yeah, well, I was looking at some other teams. We're talking about the NFC a lot, but I want somebody to talk about the Baltimore Ravens and that team, and how do you see them going forward? And also Cincinnati Bengals, Minnesota, the Dolphins, and the 49ers. So if somebody can chime on those teams, to me, those are the teams right now to watch. And I'm not so convinced about the Baltimore Ravens right now.
I would say that the Dolphins are really intriguing, just from the standpoint of some people have Tyreek Hill as their MVP, which I just think is extraordinary, as a wide receiver, for him to, have that sort of prolific success with Mike McDaniel. This morning I tweeted who is the coach of the year for people so far, and really just a reminder about how many teams and coaches are doing well for their squads right now, because there was just a variety of answers. And then you asked about the Minnesota Vikings, who I think Kevin O'Connell is just doing a great job in his first year. It also speaks to the synergy that Kirk Cousins is having with the new coach in comparison to what it was under Mike Zimmer. I feel like Tua talked about it a little bit with Mike McDaniel. You saw the quotes this morning on Twitter where he was illuminating the difference of having somebody believe in you. And what difference does that make? And I almost tweeted about that this morning, because I was like, how much does that just apply to all of us at our jobs? And the difference it is when you have somebody backing you that believe it's like night and day with your experience. And so, who knows? The Dolphins could be one of those teams. I was just talking to someone who was like, should I be considering the Dolphins relative to how, that they're playing? So you have that. But that's why I think the matchup against the Jets and the Vikings this weekend is really key, especially with Mike White, to see how those two teams do. And that defense, the way Robert Saleh has been playing, I think that's really going to be interesting. What were some of the other teams that you asked about, Donna?
The Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a team that is just going to turn it up a notch when we get closer to the postseason. You kind of have those teams that, trying to just kind of get there. And I feel like, when it's really time to put your body on the line and you're not worried about getting through a 17-game season, that you're going to see Lamar bring it up. I mean, mentally, do I kind of expect the Ravens to have somewhat of a game like that against the Jaguars? Yes, because psychologically we're used to seeing teams kind of come down a bit relative to their opponent. So if that were a playoff game, I don't think that would have happened. But kudos to Doug Peterson for doing what he does, always rolling the dice on 2-point conversions and things like that. And I can't remember the rest of the teams that you said, but
well, I got one team I want to ask about though.
I want to jump in, Tony, real quick. Mm-hmm. I understand about the Dolphins being a real good team, but the tail of their tape will be in the next 3 weeks. They have 3 straight road games against San Francisco, the Chargers, and then they go to Buffalo. That will determine how good this Dolphins team really is. Now, a team that we're not really talking a whole lot about is Cincinnati. This team is not a team that is a one-year wonder. What they did last year was no fluke, and they've been doing it recently without 2 of their key players, Joe Mixon yesterday or earlier this week, and then they've been playing without Jamar Chase for 3 straight weeks. So the Bengals are for real. So the Ravens slipped up in Jacksonville. That could cost them down the stretch for this AFC North title. So just watch out for Cincinnati. Again, that team is no fluke from what they did last season.
Yeah, and I look at them, they are pretty good. But the one thing about it, they got a lot of injuries and different things happening. And one thing I do want to look at going down, and when G get back on, I want to ask them, nobody mentioned Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is supposed to we win with Brady. So I want to ask them what happened to Brady. When we get back, we'll do a little talk about that. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Up because it keeps my back flush. And I open up and I close at the top. Open up. I don't want to go down like this. I want to keep that arc so I can open up that chest and back. Sometimes, because I have a problem with my shoulder, I won't go back that far because I know I have a problem with it, and this right here will aggravate it. So
and what is this for, Ricky?
This is for your shoulder. Your anterior delts, and your chest, your upper chest. So let's get it rolling. Here you go. How's the weight? Good?
Good, because this is what I actually use for this one.
Good. See, I like your rhythm. You're going back slow. You're coming up slow. Yeah. It's beautiful. This is a trainer's dream like this. I ain't gotta say that.
Well, as always, Ricky Irvin gets us in shape, and even more so with the holidays around the corner. Tony?
Now, I tell you what, we were talking about a lot of teams and getting in shape and stuff, and this is one thing I have to ask. We had a standing joke and a running joke, or whatever you want to say around here. You never bet against Brady. When we're talking playoffs and we're talking winning teams, we can't even mention Brady on Tampa Bay. Now, G, what's going on, man? That's your man.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if Brady gets in the playoff, I'm still not going to bet against Brady. I don't bet against Brady, no matter how good or bad they're playing right now. You know, Tampa's in the division right now. They're quite honestly, they're probably going to win that division, even though they're playing bad right now. They're still probably going to win that division. And once you get into the playoffs, we all know it's any given Sunday, anything can happen. It's who hot at the moment. So as long as they're going into the playoffs strong, that's all that matters.
Not this year, Gary. You don't have to worry about Tampa Bay this year or Brady because it's not going to happen. But Tony, I got to talk to Mike about the 49ers. Mike, Tony has been talking all season long about the 49ers. This is the team to watch moving forward. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree that is one of the teams in the NFC that probably could go toe to toe with the Eagles, a team that could give a lot of teams trouble because we're seeing not only now are they getting healthy on offense, they've gotten, those reinforcements back. They've got Christian McCaffrey in the mix, and you see Kyle Shanahan really starting to figure out how to use all these pieces. This past week, they seemed a little off offensively, but then they had the backing of a really fantastic defense. So this team can hurt you in a number of ways. They play really good complementary football. That's something that really is stressed by Mike Shanahan and is passed down to Kyle Shanahan. You hear Sean McVay talk, you hear Matt LaFleur talk about it. But when that offense is really hot, then the defense fits. When the offense is down, the defense kind of picks up. They really play well together, and they're so well-rounded. That's why I do think that, hey, this is a team that down the stretch of the season you really have to be worried about, especially when they come into the playoffs. Because, look, it's so funny. They were ready to get rid of Jimmy G, and so they really worked to really surround Trey Lance with well-rounded pieces on both sides of the ball. Now Jimmy G's there because Trey Lance got hurt, and this might be their best opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl.
I like them, but
go on and beat your chest, Tony. Go on and beat your chest.
I want to talk to you, Josina. You look around the league and everything. What do you think, and who do you look at as the best team right now, other than the Philadelphia? Everybody talking Philadelphia. You look at all these other teams, and the scoring is down. Is it because of the quarterbacks, or have the defenses got that much better?
I just think that there's, more parity and a little bit more evenness around some of the teams and how they're playing. I think some of that also has to do with the shortened preseason and the time that it takes for some of these teams to assimilate into their regular seasons and kind of get on their stride. And at some point, attrition is always the mitigating factor relative to injuries and things like that. But really quickly, just to go back to the 49ers and what Mike was saying, one thing I wanted to point out there is I'm so impressed with D'Amico Ryans and the defensive coordinator. So impressed with him. More so that he even took himself out the head coach running last year because he didn't feel like he was ready. And how many people do you know have that inner discernment about themselves to feel like, I need more time and more seasoning? That in and of itself was just so impressive, to possess that inner discernment, all the emotional intelligence, which I'm always attributing to Robert Saleh and the Jets, and how that defense is taking on his personality. I feel like that's so impressive. And then obviously adding on Christian McCaffrey, and then relative really quickly to Jimmy G. I just have to go back to a conversation I had with Jed York at the owners meeting back in March when I was like, do not get, and I'm consistent with this. So this is not no bandwagon stuff, but I'm always like, do not get rid of Jimmy G, because it just never made sense to me to just be jumping on the eagle wings of Trey Lance at the time that you have a quarterback who's been to the NFC Championship twice. This is what you're trying to get Trey Lance up to. So that it doesn't even make sense. And these people that get paid so much money to make these decisions and then to come right back to where you were is just mind-boggling to me. But really, really quickly, that's also my discerning factor of why I have the Cowboys over the Eagles, because even though I agree with both of you, most of you on this panel who have said that the Eagles are the better team now and they're more well-rounded, and I agree with that. But I do believe that when you get over the hurdle of playoff football and when it's time to play under pressure, I feel like in that instance, even though the Cowboys have notoriously not, had success, relative to the goal that they're trying to reach to in Dallas, I feel like in that instance, I could see myself rolling a little bit more with Dak than Jalen when the pressure is really on of the postseason.
We got to pay some bills, but Ty, when I come back, we got about a minute, but I want to ask you this when I come back. You put that helmet down. We'd have told you no props. I want to ask you, in all this conversation, this is the first year in maybe 10 years, Pittsburgh was never mentioned. We'll be back in a moment.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
Well, it's always my favorite time of this show. We've had some heated discussions, but the picks. And last week we all went 3-2, except Gary Clark, that's in the bottom of the barrel. But
you mean the ratings didn't go 3-2?
Well, the ratings didn't go through, but the picks are up on the screen for this coming week. We've got some great games. Tony?
Well, if you take a look at it, and I want to ask each of you, who do you think is going to win? But I got to go back to you, Ty. What's up with Pittsburgh? Is it because that defensive player got hurt and I only need 30 seconds? You tell me. I know they need a quarterback, but this is the first time I've ever seen a defensive player mean so much to a team.
Well, TJ Watt's back now, but he's not. One man does not make a team. If you depend on one guy to make your team, you don't have much of a team. But the quarterbacks are the key. You talk about Deshaun Watson, Cleveland, Lamar Jackson at Baltimore, Joe Burrow at Cincinnati, and then Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. That's all you need to know. He's no better than Mitch Trubisky right now. So they have growing pains. They don't have as much talent as they've had in the past, and they still need some offensive line help. And that's why the Steelers are going to have their first losing record under Mike Tomlin.
Who do you have in the Super Bowl?
It's a stretch right now, but I really think I would not be surprised if we see Miami and Philadelphia.
Okay, Mike, who do you see in the Super Bowl?
All right, I've got the Chiefs and the 49ers. I had the Chiefs and the Rams, but the Rams let me down. So Chiefs and the 49ers.
All right. Josina, you've been around. Which one? Which two?
I actually have the same two teams right now as far as the Chiefs from the AFC and the 49ers from the NFC. But I want to put a caveat on that because I do want to still keep my eye on the OBJ sweepstakes and see where he goes, because if he does end up, with Dallas, and we'll see if that happens or not, that may be enough for me to put the Cowboys over the 49ers.
G, give me your two, and you keep Brady out of it.
All right. It's going to be the Commanders and the Chiefs.
I like that.
I said they would run the table. So they lost one game, but they've won 5.
Sounds like a movie, Commander in Chief.
Oh, there you go. Hey, all right, Donna. We got a minute or so.
Kansas City and the Eagles.
Kansas City. I'm going to tell you what, as we pull this off, I'll tell you what, I'm still going with the 49ers, and me and my son both think the Bills will be there. Weather's going to get bad, and it's going to get bad, but no matter who is there, now it's time to not just say it, you got to play it. You don't be going out there, you got to leave the blood on the field. You take a tea kettle of hot scalding water to clean it up. When they come back, whoever does that, that's who will win it. As on this show, thank you guys for being on the show. Look to get you all back. We'll see who won and who's right about this. But at the same time, you fans, thanks for watching us. And one thing we never do on this show is say goodbye. We say in the minute.
So amazing, so amazing. I'm singing about you. So amazing, so amazing.